Hi, my name is Christopher Malcolm, and welcome to Movable Canvas, where we talk about cinema, art, culture, and where those three things sometimes intersect. And today I'll give you my real-time review of Paul Thomas Anderson's new movie, One Battle After Another. Okay, first an admission. Paul Thomas Anderson is my favorite current working director. I mean, Billy Wilder is my favorite director of all time, but out of our living, breathing denizens of cinema, Paul Thomas Anderson is like the filmmaker whose movies I will buy a ticket for before they even go into production. But why is that? I mean, there are a host of amazing directors working today. Why have his films always struck a nerve? And how do some of those reasons manifest themselves in his latest effort, One Battle After Another? You know, the other day I was sitting down talking movies with a colleague of mine, and the topic came up of romantic comedies. Now, if you don't know, that's the type of genre that I work in, so I love it and I love to talk about it. And my friend and I were going through the list of our favorite rom-coms of the 21st century. So films like When Harry Met Sally, The Awful Truth, and all the greats of the 20th century, those were off the table. When it came time to pick their favorite film, a friend selected Punch Drunk Love, Paul Thomas Anderson's 2002 film starring Adam Sandler and Emily Watson. It was a brilliant choice. And interestingly enough, given what I just told you about PTA being my favorite director, it wasn't the film that first came to my mind. That's not to say that Punch Drunk Love isn't a great romantic comedy. Rather, it highlights the first point I want to make about Anderson's work. Paul Thomas Anderson's films to me are almost a genre by themselves. I mean, Boogie Nights is kind of a comedy. It's also a drama. It's also a family saga. You know, Magnolia is part drama, part comedy, part game show, part romance, part, well, everything. Paul Thomas Anderson's greatest asset is that it makes films that feel wholly original. They aren't strictly one thing. They're a lot of things all at once. They're an amalgamation of themes going on in his head, all weaved together in this sort of mini operas that function on multiple levels simultaneously. Sometimes too many levels. I mean, many, even Anderson himself, will complain about his tendency towards excess in a film like Magnolia. But at the same time, you know, the excess of a PTA movie is just kind of part of the charm. One Battle After Another is a good example. Every bit the ensemble piece, as is Anderson's tendency, this film centers around Leonardo DiCaprio, his relationships within an underground rebel group, and a shadowy group of elites dedicated to retribution for something that has happened earlier in the film. I'm being specifically vague about the plot. I was originally going to make this video as part of my kind of off-the-cuff, real-time reviews, a new series I'm introducing with unscripted, unfiltered, raw reactions as soon as I walk out of the theater. But as you can see, I had a lot to say about this one, so I opted for a longer review. But at the same time, I don't want to give too much of the plot away. I mean, since many of you will hopefully be going to see the film in the theaters this weekend, all you really need to know going in is that, you know, just like PTA's previous efforts, this film, too, is hard to categorize. The film is hefty on themes and clearly shows that current events are rolling around inside Anderson's mind. But I also laugh more in this movie than I think I have in any other movie so far this year, including ones that are out-and-out comedies. As always, the visuals are top tier, whether working with an established DP or serving as his own cinematographer as he has on most of his recent films. The photography of a PTA film never disappoints. He shot this project in VistaVision, which is a special film format which was popular in like the 50s, kind of faded out in the early 60s, where he used more of the film's negative by running it sideways through the camera to get more horizontal resolution. There are far better video explainers about VistaVision online, so I'll let you check those out. But suffice it to say, the result is an image that you're just not quite going to see with any other film. Leonardo DiCaprio is terrific as our protagonist. Leo is one of those actors who I rarely think about when I'm listing my favorite actors, but who has a strange knack of being at the center of so many of my favorite films. I think his skill as an actor over the years has only been matched by his kind of adeptness at making good off-screen choices. What I mean by that is that, you know, following Titanic, it would have been very easy for Leo to just have chosen a career as a pretty boy and cash in on his good looks to make kind of empty blockbuster vessels after empty blockbuster vessels. But instead, Leo chose to use his cachet to chart a different path. He used his power in the industry to always work with the best directors: Scorsese, Nolan, Inarritu, Lerman, Eastwood, Ridley Scott, Tarantino, and PTA. The list goes on. Now, as any actor will tell you, the ability to be that selective is something that only comes when you're Leonardo DiCaprio. But in being so specific about the type of projects he's attached himself to, he's created a career full of rich characters and compelling stories that will be the envy of almost any actor who's ever lived. Sean Penn, who was also in Anderson's last film, Licorice Pizza, appears here again as our film's antagonist. Again, I'm staying away from revealing too much of the plot, but one thing to look out for is the amount of detail Penn puts into this performance. From the way his character speaks to the way his character walks. In fact, there's a shot later in the film, you'll know which one it is when you see it, that I feel like is paying off his particular way of walking throughout the film. So much so to the fact that I wonder if it was originally scripted that way or if Anderson just saw Penn's performance and decided to add that scene based on his physicality. Regina Hall, Teyana Taylor, and Benicio Del Toro all have memorable supporting roles. And Chase Infinity really jumped off the screen for me as someone to keep an eye on for future projects. In many ways, One Battle After Another is just a continuation of what has now been 30 years of Paul Thomas Anderson creating sprawling yet personal cinema that engages your head and your heart in a truly unique way. There's just nothing quite like a PTA movie. And while he's never technically made a sequel, his films are almost a cinematic universe all of themselves. There are commonalities. He loves ensemble work and always gets the most out of every actor, from the leads all the way down to the bit players. Anderson, whose own father was a semi-famous TV host named Ernie Anderson and a complicated figure as a man, clearly has the idea of father and child relationships at the core of all of his work. Just like Spielberg has essentially made a career out of translating childhood trauma of divorce into blockbuster entertainment, Anderson's core wound is clearly whatever was going on in his relationship with his father. That's played out into paternal figures in movies like Boogie Nights, The Master, Magnolia, all the way up to this film, One Battle After Another, which is explicitly about familiar relationships. As I mentioned earlier, this video was supposed to be part of my real-time reviews, which are kind of unscripted, candid reviews to each movie. And at the end of those, I give a rating of 4 stars to each movie. 4 means run, don't walk to the movie theater. 3 means definitely worth the price of admission. 2 means second screen viewing, put it on Netflix while you're doing your laundry. And 1 means, there are better things you could be doing with your life. One Battle After Another gets 4 stars. Run, don't walk to the theater to see yet another masterwork from, in my opinion, the most interesting filmmaker working today. Thanks again for watching another episode of Movable Canvas. If you like this kind of material, be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons below. I'm a working filmmaker, so I don't always have the time to post here as much as I'd like to. But I'm just trying to get out at least one of these a month from now on. That's the goal. We'll see if that actually happens or not. In these videos, we always talk about the best Hollywood and world cinema has to offer, both past and present. And do let me know what you think of the real-time reviews format, and if you'd like me to cover more recent releases, movies that are currently in the theater. If you've seen One Battle After Another, be sure to drop your comments in the section below. And until next time, have a great day.